When Melania Trump and Tiffany Trump announced they were hosting a high-profile charity auction, the reactions were mixed. Some saw it as an opportunity to do good, a moment where influence and wealth could be used to uplift those in need. Others, however, were skeptical. Was this a genuine act of philanthropy, or just another extravagant event designed to keep the Trump name in the headlines? Regardless of where people stood, one thing was undeniable. This auction was going to be big, bigger than anyone expected. The anticipation leading up to the event was electric. Invitations had gone out to some of the most powerful and affluent figures in the world. Celebrities, business moguls, and political insiders, all eager to witness and perhaps participate in what was shaping up to be one of the most talked-about fundraising events of the year. The question on everyone's mind wasn't just how much money would be raised, but rather, what would be auctioned off, and who would be willing to spend the most. For Melania, this wasn't just another night of glitz and glamour. Her years as First Lady had been marked by her Be Best initiative, a campaign focused on children's well-being, online safety, and opioid abuse prevention. Despite the controversies that followed her husband's presidency, Melania had remained committed to causes that mattered to her. This auction, she hoped, would be another step in that direction, a chance to leverage her platform for something meaningful. Tiffany, on the other hand, had always been the quieter member of the Trump family, often overshadowed by her older siblings. But tonight, she was stepping into the spotlight, not as just the other Trump daughter, but as a force of her own. This was her moment to prove that she, too, could make an impact. From the moment guests arrived, the energy was undeniable. There was a sense that this wasn't just an ordinary charity event. It was something different, something significant. The room was filled with conversations about the items set to be auctioned, whispers of speculation over which billionaire or celebrity would place the highest bid. But beneath all the excitement, there was an unspoken question. Was this event going to live up to the expectations? Would it truly make a difference, or would it become just another spectacle, another headline in the never-ending Trump saga? As the auctioneer prepared to begin, the chatter in the room quieted. The spotlight turned to Melania and Tiffany, who stood side by side, poised and elegant, ready to address the crowd. This was the moment where the intentions of the evening would be set, where they would make it clear. This was not just about wealth or prestige. This was about humanity, about generosity, about using influence to create real change. And as the first item was announced, a ripple of surprise spread through the audience. No one had expected that. No one had expected that. The moment the first item was revealed, a murmur swept through the room. Eyes widened, heads turned, and for the first time that evening, the guests weren't just here to be seen, they were captivated. Charity auctions are known for their extravagant offerings, rare jewelry, fine art, luxury vacations, but this was different. The opening bid wasn't for a diamond necklace or a private yacht excursion. It was something far more personal. A handwritten letter from a historical figure, one with deep significance. The gasps that followed were proof that the night was going to be anything but predictable. Melania Trump stood with her signature poise, watching as the numbers started climbing. The energy in the room shifted. This wasn't just about wealth anymore. It was about legacy, about being part of something exclusive, something unforgettable. And that was just the beginning. More items followed, each one more intriguing than the last. A custom-designed gown from Melania's personal collection, worn during a historic state visit. A one-of-a-kind experience, a private dinner with Tiffany Trump at an undisclosed luxury location. A framed original speech, signed and dated by former President Donald Trump himself. The bids rolled in swiftly, and with every paddle raised, the stakes got higher. But it wasn't just about the items themselves. It was about what they represented. These weren't just luxury goods. They were pieces of history, moments captured in time, symbolic gestures that only a select few could claim as their own. And the people in this room knew it. The competition was fierce yet elegant, whispered conversations, discreet nods to auction assistants, the subtle tension of wealth and power playing out in real time. Then came the most unexpected item of the night. The moment it was announced, the room went silent. Even those who had been casually sipping their champagne, only half paying attention, suddenly turned their focus to the stage. No one had seen this coming. It was an object tied deeply to the Trump family's legacy, something that carried immense sentimental value, the kind of thing that didn't belong in a private collection but rather in a museum. And yet, here it was, up for bidding. The auctioneer's voice carried through the room as he started the bidding at an astonishing figure, but within seconds the number was already skyrocketing. People weren't just bidding to own something, they were bidding to be part of a story, to walk away with a piece of history that would be talked about for years to come. And with each raise of a paddle, it became clear. This wasn't just an auction. This was an event that would be remembered. But the real shock? That was still to come. Because when the final bid was placed, when the hammer came down, no one, not even Melania or Tiffany, expected what happened next. The moment the auctioneer's hammer struck the podium, signaling the final bid, the room erupted, not in polite applause, but in a mixture of gasps and stunned whispers. The final price? Astronomical. Higher than anyone had predicted. Even the seasoned collectors and billionaires in the audience seemed taken aback. Someone had just spent an unthinkable amount of money on an item that, until now, had been kept within the Trump family's private collection. Melania Trump, composed as ever, exchanged a brief glance with Tiffany. This wasn't just another high-dollar bid. This was history in the making. The name of the winning bidder wasn't immediately announced, adding to the suspense. Was it a well-known billionaire? A foreign dignitary? A collector with deep pockets and an even deeper admiration for the Trump legacy? No one knew for certain. What they did know was that this sale had shattered expectations. And it wasn't just one record-breaking bid. Several items had gone for far more than their estimated value. The handwritten letter from the historical figure? Sold for double its expected price. The private dinner with Tiffany Trump? A bidding war erupted, ending in an eye-watering sum that left some attendees visibly shocked. Even the framed speech signed by Donald Trump was purchased at a price that had journalists in the room scrambling to report the numbers in real time. As the auction continued, the energy in the room became electric. It was no longer just about philanthropy. It was about prestige, about proving who had the deepest pockets and the strongest desire to own a piece of history. Some guests participated with excitement, while others simply watched, fascinated by the sheer scale of wealth on display. But then, something unexpected happened. A new bidder entered the fray, someone who hadn't been actively participating until now. At first, no one paid much attention. Another wealthy guest raising a paddle. What else was new? But when the bidding for an especially sentimental item, a rare personal possession of Melania's, skyrocketed past any reasonable expectation, people started to take notice. This bidder wasn't just competing, they were dominating. Every time someone raised the stakes, they countered immediately, as if the final price didn't matter. The tension in the room grew. Who was this? And why were they willing to spend so much? Then came the moment that truly stunned everyone. When the final item of the night, a piece that many expected to fetch a high price but not break records, was up for bidding. This mysterious guest made an offer so staggering that the auctioneer had to pause, momentarily unsure if he had misheard. Silence fell over the room. Even Melania and Tiffany looked momentarily taken aback. No one had anticipated this. And when the winning bidder was finally revealed, the shockwave that followed would be talked about for years. The room was frozen in a stunned silence. Eyes darted from guest to guest. Murmurs spread like wildfire. And even the most composed attendees struggled to mask their surprise. The winning bidder had just offered an amount so staggering, so unprecedented, that it left even the wealthiest individuals in the room speechless. But it wasn't just the number that shocked people, it was who had placed the bid. When the auctioneer finally confirmed the name, an audible gasp rippled through the audience. This wasn't a billionaire tech mogul or a high-profile collector. It wasn't a political ally or a celebrity known for extravagant spending. It was someone completely unexpected, someone whose presence at the auction had barely been noticed until now. The cameras flashed as people tried to get a glimpse, whispers filling the air. Melania and Tiffany exchanged glances, their poised expressions betraying just a flicker of surprise. They had anticipated a successful night. But this was something else entirely. And then something even more unexpected happened. As the auctioneer finalized the sale, the winning bidder stood up, cleared their throat, and made an announcement that sent another shockwave through the crowd. They weren't keeping the item. They weren't locking it away in a private collection or adding it to a museum. They were donating it, giving it back to the very cause the auction was supporting. A brief moment of silence followed, as if people needed time to process what had just happened. And then, applause. Not the polite, refined claps of a high society gathering, but something more genuine, something real. Even those who had spent the evening quietly observing couldn't help but be moved by the gesture. It was in that moment that the purpose of the auction truly sank in. For all the luxury, for all the spectacle, the core of the event had always been about something bigger than money. It was about impact, about using wealth and influence to create meaningful change. As the applause swelled, Melania took a step forward, her voice steady but filled with emotion. She spoke about the power of giving, about the importance of using privilege for good. Tiffany followed, expressing gratitude not just for the funds raised but for the reminder that kindness still existed, even in circles often defined by competition and wealth. For the first time that evening, the event felt less like a display of power and more like a testament to humanity. The record-breaking numbers would make headlines, of course. The unexpected bidder would be the talk of social media. But in that moment, none of it mattered as much as the feeling in the room. A rare and genuine reminder that generosity, when done right, could be just as powerful as wealth itself. No one had expected the night to unfold like this. And yet as the evening drew to a close, it was clear. This auction had become something far greater than anyone could have imagined. The morning after the auction, headlines exploded across the media. Trump charity auction breaks records and hearts, one read. Mystery bidder stuns guests with jaw-dropping donation, another declared. Social media was on fire, with theories swirling about the identity of the high-stakes donor and debates raging over the night's most unforgettable moments. Some praised the event as a shining example of generosity, while others, predictably, questioned the motives behind it. But regardless of where people stood, one thing was undeniable. The auction had made an impact, and people couldn't stop talking about it. For the Trump family, this was a significant moment. While political and media narratives had long shaped their public image, this event was different. It wasn't about elections or policies, scandals or controversies. It was about philanthropy. And for once, the focus wasn't on division, but on something everyone could agree on: giving back. Supporters of the Trump family were quick to highlight the success of the event, celebrating Melania and Tiffany for using their influence to do something meaningful. Conservative media hailed the auction as proof that the Trumps were still power players, not just in politics and business, but in the world of high-profile philanthropy. But of course, not everyone saw it that way. Critics, always ready to scrutinize, raised questions. Some speculated about the true intentions behind the event, wondering whether it was simply a well-orchestrated PR move. Others dissected the winning bids, analyzing who had spent the most and why. Some even questioned the causes that the auction supported, with political opponents framing it as another attempt by the Trump family to maintain influence. Despite the divided opinions, one thing was clear: the auction had exceeded all expectations. The final amount raised was unprecedented, far surpassing initial projections. And for the organizations set to benefit, the impact was immeasurable. Children's charities, veteran support groups, and education programs would all receive significant funding that would change lives. But beyond the money, beyond the headlines and online debates, there was something else. A shift, however subtle, in the way people viewed the power of wealth and influence. The night had started as an elite gathering, a spectacle of luxury and exclusivity. But it had ended with an unexpected reminder that kindness, when amplified, could be just as powerful as money. As Melania and Tiffany reflected on the night's events, they knew the conversations wouldn't end here. The records broken, the unexpected generosity, the emotional speeches, it had all left a mark. Some would celebrate it, others would question it. But at the end of the day, the real takeaway wasn't in the opinions of the press or the chatter of social media. It was in the impact, in the lives that would be changed because of what had happened that night. And no matter what anyone said, that was something worth remembering. As the final guests departed and the last glasses of champagne were set down, the weight of the evening truly settled in. The numbers had been counted. The impact had been measured. And yet, long after the auction ended, the story continued to unfold. For days, news outlets dissected every aspect of the event. The record-breaking bids, the mystery donor, the staggering generosity. It all became part of a narrative much bigger than anyone had expected. Some hailed it as a defining moment for Melania and Tiffany Trump, a display of the power of influence when used for good. Others remained skeptical, unwilling to see past their own biases. But at the heart of it all, beyond the politics, beyond the spectacle, was something real: the undeniable power of giving. Melania, always reserved in her emotions, had made her feelings clear in a rare moment of vulnerability during the closing remarks. "True success is not measured by what we have, but by what we give," she had said, her voice steady, yet warm. And in that moment, it wasn't about wealth or status. It wasn't about the Trump name. It was about something far more universal: humanity. Tiffany, stepping further into a public role than ever before, had proven that she too had a voice in this conversation. She had spoken passionately about the causes they were supporting, about the children who would now have access to education, about the veterans who would receive better care, about the families who would find hope where there once was none. "Money is just a tool," she had said, "but kindness is a choice." In the days that followed, stories began to surface. Not about the celebrities who attended or the luxury on display, but about the lives that would be touched by the funds raised. A school in an underserved community receiving new technology, a shelter expanding its services to accommodate more families in need, a program for veterans gaining the resources necessary to provide better care. The real impact of the auction wasn't in the headlines or the social media debates. It was in the quiet moments that no cameras captured. The relief of a struggling mother knowing her child would have a chance at a better future. The gratitude of a veteran receiving long overdue support. The silent joy of a student realizing that someone, somewhere, believed in their potential. Long after the auction, long after the glamour of the night faded, one truth remained: generosity has the power to outlive wealth. Influence, when used correctly, can change lives. And in a world that so often focuses on division, moments like these serve as a reminder of what truly matters. Not the names, not the politics, not the price tags, but the simple, undeniable impact of human kindness. At the end of the day, wealth fades, headlines change, and power shifts. But kindness? That lasts forever. This auction wasn't just about luxury or record-breaking bids. It was about using influence to make a real difference. Now, here's the question for you. If you had unlimited resources, what cause would you support? Drop your answer in the comments, because generosity isn't just for the elite. It starts with all of us. Let's keep the conversation going.